everyone, this is Michelle Kane with Michelle Kane Actions, and today I'm just going to show you an edit from start to finish using mostly actions from the Heart and Soul and the Creative Heart action sets, and I'm going to finish off the picture with one action from the Botanical Blends set called Rose Hip. And let's get started. So you're seeing the final edited picture, and here's where we're going to start. So we're just going to kind of clean up skin, make it brighter, make it just softer looking, and tone the picture. So I'm going to go to where I'd cleaned up a couple stray hairs and start with this basically straight out of camera image. So the first thing I want to do is play Flawless Face on this picture. And Flawless Face is going to be used to really smooth out the skin and make her skin tone really even. And I have other videos as well on Flawless Face. I use it quite often, and sometimes I even use it for the background layer or the background itself to smooth it out and make it look really creamy and buttery. So once Flawless Face is done running, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more to her skin, and grab a 50% opacity brush. That's usually the opacity brush I like to use to zoom this into her skin. Sometimes I drop it down, and I just switch out my brush opacities very quickly with keyboard shortcuts. I like the number keys on the keyboard, and like 50% is 5, 40% is 4, 100% is 0. So I'm really bringing a lot of this in, but again, I'm using a 50% opacity brush and just brushing it in. I might end up with 100% of this on her skin when it's said and done, but I like to go in at low opacities and just build up those brush strokes. So once this is on, I'll just kind of come in here with a black brush and make sure I don't have the nostrils and the lips. And of course I don't have the eyes. I'm using a black brush, so when you see me brushing over that, I'm taking it out. And I'll go a little bit with the softening right up underneath her eyebrows. So once I have that softness done, if I want to drop the opacity of the thing down, I can, as you can see, going from smooth to not smooth. It's a nice little change there. Okay, the next thing I want to do is blend a brilliant, and this is going to give me an overall pop. You might notice that I use this a lot in my editing, and I just like that it kind of has everything that I need inside this one action to pop everything out and brighten stuff up. Quickly, I'm going to go into Blend a Brilliant. I'm going to pick the Brighten layer, and I'm going to mask a little bit of this Brighten off of her cheeks mostly, and a little bit off of her forehead. I don't want to have her cheeks be too bright because then we lose the shape and the dimension of her. And a lot of times when you brighten up pictures of people, they lose their facial dimensions. So if we click this brushing on and off that I just did, you can see where I've turned off some of this brighten. And I'm going to make sure I saw a little bit of it was out here. I'm going to just make sure I wasn't brushing out there. So now I've got her skin and her hair and everything in the picture kind of poppy. Here's the before, kind of real soft. Here's the after. And this is going to soften down as I go through and tone the picture at the very end. So the next thing I want to do with her skin is give it a nice kind of color tone. And there's two actions that I really like a lot for that. And they're both in the Creative Heart set. In the Delicates, there's Euphoria, and that's going to give you more yellow tones to it, and Radiance is going to give you pink tones. So I don't want yellow tones in her skin. I already see a lot of yellow tones, so I'm going to hit Radiance and hit play. And once Radiance plays at 100%, it looks nasty on the picture. It's just too much. So what I think I'm going to do is keep this at 100% opacity, but invert this layer mask. So I'm going to go to my Masks palette here and just hit invert, so it turns the mask to black. Now I'm covering up Radiance. So I can slowly begin to brush in that Radiance effect with a white brush, and I'm going to grab a 20% opacity brush because I like it really low. And again, my whole layer got moved down to 2%. That's not going to be good. Let me delete this mask. I'm just going to hit Command Delete, and that'll delete what I just painted. I just somehow brushed over my opacity there and got it kind of screwed up. So again, I'm brushing radiance in with a 20% opacity brush. You can see that it slowly begins to bring in my effect. And now I'm going to swoop it across her entire face with a big brush. I haven't done it yet, but just a 10% opacity brush, just swoop. Just kind of even it out. So let's click this radiance on and off. You can see her face was kind of dull and a little bit dark. And now it's brightened it up just a little bit, giving it that little bit of pop. Now, of course, you can come in with your opacity of the whole radiance action and bring it down a little if you need to. I think I'll drop it down to about 85. So the next thing I'm going to do is give a little bit more pinkish tones to her cheeks. A lot of times I notice that the people that I photograph start to lose their pink tone in their skin, and it can kind of get a little bit flat. So going up to Heart and Soul action set in the digital makeup, I want to hit Rosy Cheeks and Lips and hit play. Now I like to brush this in at about a 5% opacity. I'm just zipping it over once or twice just on the cheeks. That's it. Let's turn this on and off so you can see that little bit of color that comes into the cheeks. Now she's got somewhere between a blue and a green eye, and I just want to intensify that color a little bit without going insane and making her look unreal. So I'm going to actually pick Blue Eyed Beauty from this same digital makeup set. And once that plays, I'm going to pick, instead of this real nice blue color, just double clicking on this little color icon in the layers palette, I'm going to drop this to a different color and make it a little bit more in the greenish blue, and hit OK. And now I can paint that in with a low opacity 5% opacity brush. And I just zip it over a couple of times. And I'm just going to go crazy dark. I'm going to keep zipping it so you can see that if you do that, you can always switch your brush back to black and brush over it, or just come up to the layers palette again and pull the opacity of what you just brushed in down until you see it's what you want. So let's click this on and off. You can see the eyes just get that pretty nice blue color in. And if you decide after the fact the color's wrong, just double click that again and kind of alter your coloring until you find the perfect color for you. Alright, the next thing I want to do, which is almost the last thing, is a vignette the picture just a little. I want to get her just a little bit brighter than the background. You can do that in many different ways. I'm just going to do it with Sumptuous Smolder, and that gives me a nice dark background. If I click it on and off, you can see I've darkened the picture. Let's go ahead and just invert the layer mask so I can cover up that effect. And with a brush at about 70% opacity, white brush on my black mask, I'm just going to bring this vignette of Sumptuous Smolder in. I'm going to go right on her dress too, because I like how it brings out the details in those folds. And I'm just basically putting this effect everywhere but on her skin. Now Sumptuous Smolder is also, as a little side note, one of those that you could pick like a 10% opacity brush, or maybe even 5% opacity, and come in here and start to slowly darken up her cheeks even a little bit more, darken up her lips, darken up her forehead, somewhere where she's needing a little bit extra darkening. This is a good action to do that with as well. So let's click this on and off. Now we've got this darker background and she pops forth and we really see her even more. Before she was just as bright as the background, so she doesn't come out of the picture as much. Now she really pops from the photo. So next two things we're going to do, one, we're going to switch the lip color, and two, we're going to tone the picture with a color fade. So her lips are very, very bright pink. For this particular picture, I just want to go ahead and change that out a little bit. So I'm going to play Color Swap. And Color Swap, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about all these stop messages that you see in there, but just suffice it to say there's a video for Color Swap that you can look at to see exactly how to use this action. But basically you just come in here with a little color picker, pick the color that you want to change. If it was the blue I wanted to change, I'd click up here, but it happens to be the pink in the lip. And when you have something like this where you're switching out a color that's really only in one area and not around the whole image, this is a really good trick for it. So you can see in my mask I've picked pretty much just the lips. I can increase that fuzziness slider until I'm sure I have a lot of the lips that I don't see any other white showing up over here. It's not picking up any other areas. So I'm going to hit OK. And again, I'm just going to zip past these stop messages. And I'm going to go into my adjustments palette where I can make these adjustments now. So I want to take the hue and make it more in the orangish, a coral type of color. You know, as I keep switching, you can see we can go pretty nutso. We could give her purple lips if we wanted to. But I want a coral sort of color, and I want to take the saturation down a little bit. So maybe something along those lines right there. And let's go ahead and look at this color swap before. There's the pink, pink, pink lip and the after. And if I want something between the two of those colors, of course, I could take the entire color swap action and take the opacity of it down until I found the perfect coloring. And maybe somewhere around 80% is pretty good. So the very last thing, I want to tone this picture. If you like a very sharp, clean, not hazy at all kind of picture, stop here. This could be your total edit. Let's look at the beginning and the end. But I want to take it one more step and go into the Botanical Blends set and play an action called Rosehip. We could experiment with any of these tones here, but I'm just going to play Rosehip. And what I'm looking to do is just kind of change the overall haze level in the picture and bring down the saturation just a little bit. So we've got a very yellowy background before, and it's still yellow, but we almost have like these brownish blue tones now in the background, which I like. The other thing I like about Rosehip in particular is it's got lots of different layers in here that make tremendous differences. So if we come and click all of these different layer visibilities on and off, you can really see what each layer is contributing to the action. So in doing so, I find out that the Rosehip contrast brings a lot of yellow into the picture, which I like for everything but her skin. So what I'm going to do is just go and grab this Rosehip contrast layer, and I'm going to grab a black brush, and I'm going to actually just brush it in at 100% because I'm going to show you another little trick here. So I'm brushing it in, soft edged black brush at 100% opacity over this whole little area of her hair and her skin. And what we're left with is, you can see on the layer mask where I've masked out this whole area right here. It's completely black. But here's the trick. Go into your masks palette, and if you're in version 4, I believe, maybe 5 and higher, you'll have this masks palette. And we want to just basically refine this mask a little bit. So instead of taking 100% of this off, I can drop it down, and you can see my actual mask icon here. It's dropping it from a full black where it totally covered that up to a partial gray where it's kind of there, kind of covered up, kind of not covered up. So if we take it all the way off, there's no density in that mask, and now we're slowly starting to remove some of that coloring. We can also feather it to make it ultra smooth so it really blends really well, so you don't have these harsh lines. I've already used a very soft edged brush, so that helped a lot with that, but there's another thing you can do. So if you're not playing with this masks palette, I encourage you to do so. So once Rosehip is played, I want to just kind of close that up, and I'm going to drop the entire bit of Rosehip down until I see, and inch it up until I see what I like. So maybe somewhere around 50–60%, somewhere in there. Again, this is if you like that little bit of a matte finish to your picture. There's one way to get it. Actually, I'm going to drop that down. And I like clicking those eyeballs on and off because then I can really see what's happening. So there you go, start to finish. Mostly it's a skin cleanup kind of edit. So we started with Flawless Face to smooth her skin, Bland to Brilliant to brighten and pop the whole picture and give a little sharpness. Radiance was the action that I chose to give more of a real creamy effect to her skin. Rosy Cheeks and Lips intensified the cheek color. Blue-Eyed Beauty, that just darkened up and intensified that blue color in her eyes. Sumptuous Smolder, painted mostly on the background just to vignette her out. Color Swap, switched the lip color, and Rosehip toned the picture. Now you could finish it off if you were wanting a little bit more sharpness to the eyes. Maybe they weren't sparkly enough. I caution you about going too sparkly with eyes and making them look overly sharp and fake and gross. I call them alien eyes, so you don't want that. So that's the last step you could do if you felt like the picture really needed it, but otherwise here's our beginning and our end. I hope you found that tutorial helpful. You can find out more information about these actions used today at my website, MichelleKanePhotography.com. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a blessed day.